Okay, I finished with one side and thought that I would show you the result before doing both sides, for the simple reason that there's the contrast of being able to compare them is more useful. So I'll try to zoom in on this thing as much as I can and give you an idea of what we're talking about. And the comparison there of the sharp angle at the bottom and the rounded angle at the, or the radius at the top, is what we're shooting for. And the overall length of this is getting very close to what we want. So all is going according to plan. And also keep in mind that when you're doing finish sanding, that this same tool that you create that makes the radius is what allows you to sand without jacking that radius. If you use something that's got a sharp edge, you'll be chopping and digging away at that and spoiling the curve that you work so hard to create. So this becomes a sanding tool with like 400, 600, 800 and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm now going to shorten the button this way. I'll do the same thing to this side that I just finished doing to that side. Then we'll round over this sharp edge and ultimately shorten the entire button so that it looks like a Dunhill looks. So that is it. I will do this other side and be back with you shortly. Okay, I have taken both sides of that block of button material and put the radius at the base, and then I went ahead and still a further step and began to round over the profile of the button from the side here. You can see it by comparison easier than I can explain it to you. And that's because this period of Dunhills, it's all curves. It looks angular, but there really aren't any sharp lines. There's a curve at the bottom of the crease, and then it rolls over on the top as well. So we're going to do that on this side, and then we begin to start to shorten this chunk of material as we roll it over and so on. Now, something that'll make this a lot easier, really almost essential, is find a stem from the same period of time. And because this one, the original, is chewed up, and I'm not sure how much the dimensions on this are still the same as they were when it was new. This pipe was made in 61, I think it was. Yeah, 61. And this particular stem is from 1962. So the same guys who made the one made the other. And this was the style, the house style at the time. And this is how you end up getting things like the amount of depth and ovalness and all of that to the slot. All this subtle stuff that screams original and looks authentic versus looks like a replacement. So a quick second here on exactly how do you round this over. And that's actually you kind of have to wing it. There is no tool. You could maybe make something similar to a crowning file for guitar frets that might do that, but convex files, or concave files rather, are very hard to make and difficult to obtain, and it's really not necessary. You just take a strip of sandpaper, and you notice I've taped this off. It's worn through mostly now, but that as it wears away, you keep replacing the tape, and just do this number, kind of a push and lift and roll and just check frequently and do whatever it takes to create the matching profile. So that's all there is to that. More experience than anything else. 320 is a good paper to do this level of shaping with. And another completely different subject here, because it's now time to put a white dot in this, and something that most people don't think it's going to be a problem until it bites them. And that is, how do you determine the size of that dot? How big of a drill bit do you want to use to drill the hole to create the dot? Well, you would think the way to go about it is using these templates where you slide a drill bit through them and it tells you what size it is. But the thickness of these really makes it all but impossible, humanly impossible to, you think it would be a piece of cake to just line that up and measure the hole size. It turns out that it's not anywhere near that straightforward, and in fact you'll make the wrong choice most of the time. That's just it'll drive you crazy if you try it. You're looking down a tube more than you think you are because of the thickness of these plates, and they can't make them thinner or they would kink and bend and stuff like that, not be accurate for their actual purpose. So there actually is a solution, and it's kind of cute in the sense that anybody can do it. It doesn't cost much at all. First of all, you need your drill bits. And when drilling small holes, I do not recommend getting these little bitty whippy ones, these kind of things. They're hard to align. They they'll bend on, they're very flexy. They're more like a guitar string than anything else. And it's difficult to control what you're doing. Much better are drill bits that are designed for the task, that are dual diameter. The shank is thick, and the drilling part, the cutting part, is very fine. And this also keeps you from needing a specialized jeweler's chuck to hold a tiny bit, because this is 1/8 of an inch here on the thick part. So that's the ticket. And to just get yourself a set that are all the sizes you're going to need for, in this case, all the different Dunhill dot sizes that I've come across over the years. And then how you choose which one to use is almost a Ripley's Believe It or Not type of situation. And here's what I mean. Drill a shallow hole with each of them, fill them with a white paint stick, and then hold the dot up next to it. And it turns out some peculiarities of the human eyeball brain mechanism are such that you can determine sizes accurately down to like 0.02 of an inch in increments here with no difficulty. It's astonishingly easy. Anybody can do it that has a human brain and normal eyesight, and that's it. It costs you nothing. Be sure to use a Lexan or plastic, not Lexan, acrylic of some kind, so it stays black and you won't need to sand it to keep it black, because the contrast is important in being able to recognize the size. If you start messing with patterns like a brindle stem or a blue background or something, it won't work in the way you want it to. But as long as it's a nice clean black and a bright white, and you just take your subject stem and run it down the side, and these are in the same sequence, of course. I didn't even bother to label them because the numbers are all on this one. So anyway, that's it. So you don't need to watch me drill a hole. It's no more exciting now than it ever was. So I'm going to go put a shallow hole here. Final word on this. When you get into stems this small, especially the flattened oval ones, do not cut into the airway. In fact, Dunhill proper, the real shop did that from time to time, and they used a type of cellulose or celluloid plastic that would then wick the tars and so forth of smoking into the fiber, I guess you'd call it, of the plastic, and they would turn all kinds of colors. Sometimes jet black, weird browns and tangerine reds and all that kind of stuff. So, and then finally, they would like rot apart and fall out like this one. I would bet money that this came out because that hole goes all the way through to the airway. I'll check it here in a minute, but that's a really common problem. So anyway, that is it. I'll go do that and be back when I'm finished.